Hey everyone, it's Dr. Zora here, and welcome to another SkillCapped guide. The Valorant meta is constantly changing, and thus it's important to stay up to date with the latest trends. In this video, we're going to be reviewing 10 settings that every player should be using to perform at their full potential and dominate the competition in Valorant. There are multiple different settings both in-game and outside the game that will give you an insane performance boost. By the end of this guide, your computer and game will be well optimized to allow you to play at your best and accelerate through the rankings in Valorant. If you want to take your game to the next level and play like the pros, then go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you everything you need to know to blast through the ranks in Valorant. The link will be provided in the description below. And before we get into the content, we have our question of the day for you all. What are your current crosshair settings in Valorant? Valorant has created a crosshair system that allows for a ton of customization. You can have a variety of standard looking crosshairs, but can also spice things up with some unique crosshairs as well. Let us know in the comments below what you're currently using. First up, we have your minimap settings. The minimap is an area that most players tend to neglect, yet it plays such a crucial role in playing Valorant. The minimap provides details and information on not only enemy locations, but teammate locations and ability locations as well. Being able to clearly see what is going on in the map allows you to react quicker to certain scenarios, and that additional second earlier that you were able to rotate or push onto a site could be a difference maker from a successful attack or defense. Luckily for us, determining the best minimap settings has been fairly straightforward, as most of the pros have their settings set pretty similarly to one another. First, make sure to set the map to rotate and not fixed. As the wording suggests, this allows the map to rotate with you when you're moving around the map. This is most ideal because if you hear a player in a certain direction, such as to the right for example, you simply have to look to the right side of the map from your player model. If you choose the option fixed, the map will remain stationary, and this can make it very difficult to identify where players are. For example, if you heard someone to the right, they could actually end up showing up on the left side of the map. Next, fixed orientation should be set to based on side. This ensures that the map is always set so that it matches how your team's oriented on the map when you spawn. For similar reasons, this helps you avoid any confusion on where you or any other players are on the map. For the remainder of the settings, you want to set minimap vision cones to on and show map region names to always. There were a variety of settings that pros used for minimap size and zoom, but the most popular was minimap size to 1.1 and minimap zoom to 0.9. We've tested these settings out ourselves and agree with the majority that they provide the optimal balance between having a good sized minimap where you can clearly identify any activity, but also a minimap that doesn't take so much space that it becomes very distracting for your play. Next up, this is a setting that is relatively well known but highly neglected, and that is your resolution settings. Most players are likely on their default resolution, which is the resolution that your monitor is set at. Most monitors these days have a resolution of 1920 by 1080, so your in-game resolution in Valorant is likely set to that. Now, while this may give you the best quality when playing Valorant, if you have a lower end PC, setting the resolution to 1920 by 1080 can be very detrimental to your performance, as it increases the number of pixels that need to be displayed on your screen and thus can hinder your performance and FPS in game. If your frames in Valorant is consistently above 144, this isn't particularly necessary, but if your FPS is lower than that, especially if it's less than 60, we highly suggest lowering the resolution to improve your performance. If you're using a monitor with a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, we recommend trialing 1600 by 900 or 1280 by 720 resolutions, which will decrease the number of pixels and work that your computer has to push out. This will decrease the quality and how the game looks, but having a low FPS really reduces your ability to perform in game, and we believe the decreased graphics are well worth the sacrifice for additional performance that will help you play better. The lower you go in resolution, the greater number of frames per second you'll be able to achieve. Going into our next settings, we have digital vibrance and contrast. Hiko is one of the top professional players in Valorant and has really made these settings popular, and for good reason. Digital vibrance is a setting you can amp up that will provide brighter and more vivid colors to your game. While this not only makes your game look a lot better, it also helps to clarify enemy models from the rest of the map, which will allow you to clearly identify players and react as quickly as possible to them. For those with NVIDIA graphics cards, the way to set this is by going into the NVIDIA control panel. From there, you'll head over to adjust desktop color settings, and that is where you'll find the digital vibrance and contrast options. Set both of these values up to 100% and you're good to go to having better colors that not only make the game look better, but will also help you play better. If you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card, there is nothing to fear. You can still increase your digital vibrance on the control panels for AMD graphics cards as well, as they do have an option to adjust hue and saturation, which will provide a similar effect. Going into our next setting is setting a good hotkey for pinging. In Valorant, you ping an area by opening the map and clicking on a spot, but more importantly, you can ping an area by pointing your crosshair towards that area and then hitting a hotkey. Pinging is an extremely important feature to use to identify enemy locations. I'm sure many of you have gotten a call that an enemy is right there, but you have no idea where there actually means. Pinging helps you and your team get a clear idea of where the enemy is at, but the default hotkey for pinging is at Z. This is a fairly awkward button to get to, as there's no real way to press Z unless you move your fingers away from the resting position. However, this tends to feel very unnatural to players. Instead, we recommend players setting pinging to the middle mouse button instead. This tends to be a button that's easier to access and can be pressed quicker than the default Z button. Especially in tight situations where it can be difficult to fully communicate where a player is located, the pinging system will help clarify things a lot quicker, and having a convenient button can make all the difference in improving your coordination and reaction speed during those intense moments. Speaking of hotkeys, we're going to provide a unique setting that not many players think about doing, and that is unbinding your crouch key. If you're a player that finds themselves constantly crouching during gunfights, and crouching in particular is messing up your aim, then unbinding crouch may be the key to breaking this habit and improving your aim. While crouching isn't necessarily bad, using it is very situational, and the issue that arises is many players end up crouching way too much regardless of the situation. While unbinding crouch will most certainly feel awkward at first, it will greatly help defeat the most common habit players develop, which is over crouching, particularly crouching at those wrong moments. And we have found many players, even some of the pros, who have unbinded crouch for a brief period to break their bad habits and improve their aim and play. So if you have this chronic crouching disorder, unbind this key and you'll instantly notice yourself performing better during situations where crouching is not necessary. Continuing with keybinds, we have one more hotkey that we highly suggest using, and that is for jumping. Movement is an important aspect in Valorant, and while you may not think that jumping is all that valuable, having good movement and strafing while jumping can make the difference between getting out of a sticky situation or getting stuck and killed. When you need to perform multiple jumps in a row to get out of a situation, such as when trying to bunny hop, we found that it is easier to do so when jump is binded to scroll wheel down. The scroll wheel is overall much easier to access consecutively compared to the spacebar, thus allowing you to make smoother jumps in a row to navigate an area of the map or to smoothly strafe jump out of a certain position. The key reason this keybind is helpful is that it allows you to focus your keys more on WASD rather than having to use an additional finger onto that space. With that being said, we're going to go on into our graphics settings. Now that Valorant has been out for a year, we have much more information on how these graphics settings affect your performance, and we've discovered that they don't actually change your performance all that much. But perhaps more importantly, we found that they don't change your graphics all that much either. So if you're big on your game looking as good as possible, these settings may not affect the looks all that much, but still allows for an additional performance boost. The more FPS you're able to achieve, the smoother Valorant will run, which will allow you to react and aim significantly better. For those looking for this performance boost, we recommend setting all the settings to the lowest possible or off, with the exception of improved clarity, as we found that had no impact on performance. These settings will maximize the amount of FPS you're able to achieve, especially for those who are scraping for frames. You will notice a big bump with these settings. Another unique setting that many players aren't aware of is Show Corpse, which we recommend turning off. This setting can be found in the General tab, and if you scroll down to the section labeled Other, you will find this setting. With this setting turned on, which it is by default, whenever an enemy or player is killed, they'll leave behind a token that identifies their agent rather than a body on the ground. Turning corpses off is particularly useful for clarity when using certain agent abilities, such as Sage's res. Corpses off makes it much clearer which agents you're looking at, and you can make quicker decisions on who you want to bring back to life. This is especially useful when there's multiple players killed in the same area, where it can be easy to click and resurrect the wrong player as they were all so close by. To remove those kinds of hiccups, make sure to set corpses to off. We're saving the best setting for last, but before we get into that, we need to talk about enemy highlight color. This setting can be found in the General tab and in the section labeled Accessibility. The options that are available with this setting are red, yellow, and purple. What this setting does is it changes the outline color of character models. These settings were originally meant for players who were colorblind to give them options to better see character models. However, this setting is also useful for every player to adjust, as it can make a big impact on how clearly you can see players. By default, enemy highlight color is set to red, which is a fine option for most people. However, the color can be difficult to spot at times, resulting in it blending in with different abilities and map designs. In those situations, it's possible for you to miss a player or have to debate on whether you actually saw an enemy, which reduces your reaction time as you're busy processing the information you're seeing and second guessing yourself. We recommend players set enemy highlight color to purple or yellow. These colors tend to stick out much more than red, and therefore you won't have to deal with any confusion or uncertainty when facing enemies. Both colors are suitable, however if you're curious on what the pros are using, a large majority of them do have highlights set to yellow for the same reasons that we just stated. Lastly, the setting we're going to go over is your sensitivity. Sensitivity is absolutely crucial to increasing control of your aim and for overall comfort with your movements when using abilities and getting into gunfights. We recommend having a slow sensitivity with an EDPI that is below 500. If you don't know what EDPI is, this value is calculated by multiplying your in-game sensitivity by the DPI that you have your mouse set at. If you don't have a gaming mouse, you won't have the ability to change your DPI or possibly even know what DPI your mouse is set at. So before you play around with your sensitivity, if you're serious about improving in Valorant, we highly recommend getting a gaming mouse so you can fully optimize your settings. Now back to the sensitivity. Over 90% of pros use a slow sensitivity that falls under this EDPI value of 500 because it maximizes their aim and control. In a game like Valorant where precision is key, being able to make those minute movements is crucial, as being just a few millimeters off can result in a missed shot. A slower sensitivity better allows you to make these small adjustments to get onto your enemies. There is no best sensitivity to say, however being in this range will certainly improve your aim and control, and from there you want to play around with different sensitivities that fall under this category and find what feels comfortable for you. Alright, so what setting did you find the most helpful? Let us know in the comment section below, and while you're down there, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next. I'm Dr. Zora, and good luck out there.